A dark event had occurred nearly 10 years ago, a dark event that changed the lives of two twin babies from the Potter household. James and Lily barely survived that night, but they were most relieved that their twins, mainly their son, had survived as well. No one knew at first which twin defeated the dreaded Dark Lord, but when the son first performed magic they knew it must have been him all along. They were wrong, seriously wrong. The wrong twin was proclaimed the child who lived, while the real one suffered in the background. The poor child had the mark, but they still believed it to be the son. Their children had grown up in the same household, their twins and their youngest daughter Abigail Ann Potter. Charles Sirius Potter, or Charlie, was proclaimed the boy who lived, and his twin sister Angelique Dora Potter was cast aside. The Potters spoiled their son, but their daughters hardly had any attention, not even from their godfather Sirius Black. The youngest one had some attention, but she still wasn't the favorite like her older brother. The two girls stuck together ever since Abigail was born, and though neither girl was abused, they might as well have been. Their parents never said, "Well done" or "good job" or even thank you to them. It didn't matter what they did. They had to suffer for the reputation of their pathetic older brother. True, they had been given an education, food, and clothes, but they were ignored no less. The only figure who seemed like a parent to them was Remus Lupin, and he was the father the girls wanted. He loved them, told them how proud he was of them, gave them gifts, and treated them like his own cubs, unlike Sirius who treated Charlie like a bloody prince. Did they go out again? 7-year-old Abigail, or Abby, as Angelique called her, came into her sister's room after their parents left with their brother that afternoon. "Yeah, they're getting a new broom for Charlie, we." Angelique's sarcasm was her best insulting charm. She used it a lot, especially around her parents. Charlie had been begging his parents for a new broom after breaking his 5th one they gave him on their birthday last month. He got a new broom and a Quidditch uniform, but all Angelique got was a pair of gloves for the winter. Remus had given her a bracelet, sterling silver with animal charms including a wolf, a horse, a falcon, a cat, a fox, and a rabbit. The bracelet looked expensive, but Remus had said it belonged to his mother, and since he didn't have any daughters he gave it to Angelique. She never took it off, unless she bathed. For Abigail's birthday she had gotten a journal from her parents, a ratty old one that belonged to James but he never used it. Remus of course gave Abby a cute little butterfly hair clip that was his grandmother's, made of hand-painted silver, with colors of a monarch butterfly. She took good care of it, and wore every time he came to visit. Sirius hardly gave them anything. Instead he wrote his name on the lame presents from their parents. It was the same with Christmas too. Charlie got the good presents and they got hand-me-downs. "Why do they hate us, Angie?" Angelique stared at her 7-year-old sister, surprised she would ask such a question. "I don't know, Abby, I don't know." Abby got up onto Angelique's bed and sat on her lap. Her sister held her close and they sat there for 30 minutes before hearing the flue go off. Must be them. They walked downstairs to see who came, and saw it was Remus. Moony. Both girls ran down and hugged the man tight. "Hey girls, where are?" They pulled away and shook their heads. "Again?" Remus knew how the girls were treated, and he told them if he could he would get custody of them, but since he was a werewolf the ministry would just send them back to James and Lily. Times were hard, but at least Remus was there when they needed him. "Not worth it, Moony," Angelique whispered to him, so Abby couldn't hear. "Well, what say we have some chocolate and play a game of ladders and snakes? And then a game of slapjack?" The girls both nodded. Remus played mole games with them often, but they liked them even if Charlie didn't. "Here you are." He handed them both chocolate frogs, which they ate down in no time. "Hey, I got Merlin," Abby said, showing Angelique a card. "I have Morgana. Again." Angelique had lots of chocolate card frogs, but she barely used them. "Ah, don't worry, Angelique, you can trade with me." Abby held out her card. "Nah, I know you wanted Merlin, so you keep him." "You sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. Go on." Abby smiled and put the card back into her pocket. If Charlie saw it he would take it, he'd been looking for Merlin for months. Anyway, before we begin the games, Angelique, I think you're due to start school next year, correct? She nodded. Well, I know you told me you don't want to go to Hogwarts, so I brought this. He handed her a brochure and an envelope full of admission forms on an American magic school. You just have to fill this out, which I'll help you with, and then you write an essay on why you want to attend. That's where the brochure comes in. Is it like Hogwarts? Sort of. It's not as ancient, but it's an old school that's been around for centuries. Rumor has it the wizard who created it was a protege under Merlin himself, though it's never been proven. But how will I afford it? James and Lily won't pay. He knew their parents wanted the kids to attend Hogwarts, but if it meant the same treatment there as at home, Angelique wanted no part in it. You can get a scholarship if you take this test here. Remus pulled out a folder. Once you fill out the admission forms, you take this magical test, and depending on your score they will decide if you are eligible for a scholarship. That could cover your tuition at least. Angelique looked over the form. It seemed simple enough to fill out, and the test looked like basic math and science. Let's see: charms class, potions, medicine, optional courses, magical history. These all sound good. It even says for students out of state or continent they will provide transportation. Travel 3 days ahead of time, room and board. You're even allowed to have your own broomstick during your first year. Angelique knew Hogwarts wouldn't allow first years to have their own brooms. She could probably buy one in America. What do you say, Angie? Abby wanted her sister to be happy. She actually hoped that when she was due to start school in 4 years she'd be able to go to school with Angelique. I'll do it, but there's no guarantee that I'll get in. She looked at Remus. You're very smart, Angelique. I say you will get in and you can have as much fun as you wish when you get there. Remus winked. So do you want to fill it out now? Oh yes, before they come back. Then let's get started. Abby, do you want to help? Abby nodded. All right then. First they filled out the form. Basic information regarding home address, birth dates, family members, etc. Once that was done, Angelique took the test but finished in less than 10 minutes. Her quick ability to learn stunned all her tutors, but didn't settle well with her parents, whom assumed she was bragging about it to make Charlie feel bad. Charlie didn't help either. He claimed she cheated on her tests, but her tutors had put charms on the quills to prevent cheating. He was such a huge sore loser, whine all the bloody time. Filling out the forms and test only took an hour altogether, so Remus used the family's owl to send the mail out. James said he was allowed to when he needed, and within a week or two Angelique would get a response back. She actually hoped the school accepted her. Anything to get away from her parents and stupid brother. Okay girls, how about a game of cat and mouse? Yeah. 3 hours later. After many games and playing together, Angelique and Abigail were both exhausted from the day with their favorite wizard. Remus had really made the day good for them, far better than them staying in Angie's room bored and angry with the others. Moony? All three were in the den just talking after an hour outside, when the rest of the Potters and Sirius came through the flue. Oh hello James. Remus tried to keep his composure. He didn't want to lash out at James in front of the girls. Hey Moons, what are you doing here? Sirius embraced him. I came to see Angelique and Abigail. Oh, did you have fun? Lily looked at the two, who only nodded. Oh well, go wash up for dinner. We already ate, thanks. Angelique answered her. Uncle Moony gave us pizza. Pizza? That's not fair. Charlie whined. It's okay son, we can get pizza too. Moony, would you like to join us? Remus shook his head. No, I have to go, but thanks. Angelique and Abby hugged Remus tight, as if they didn't want to let go. It's all right girls. I'll come back this weekend and we can play some more. They let go and he kissed their heads. Good night. He left after giving Charlie a hug goodbye. Well, I'll order the dinner. Charlie, why don't you go try out your new broom? Charlie's face brightened up, but he stopped when he stared at Abby's pocket, with the card slightly sticking out. Hey, what's that? Without an answer he pulled the card out, getting a protest from Abby. Hey cool, it's Merlin. I've been looking everywhere for him. Give it back, that's mine. Abby tried to grab it but Charlie pulled away. Uncle Mooney gave it to me. Give it back, Charlie, it's not yours. Angie knew this would happen, and she wasn't about to let Charlie take another one of Abby's things. Oh come on girls, you can share with your brother, James said, and Charlie looked pleased and smug. Let him take it for tonight. No, then he'll wreck it like he did the last ones. Angelique walked up and pushed Charlie before taking the card and handing it back to Abby. Do not push your brother, young lady, Lily scolded her. Oh, shut up. She glared at the woman who was supposed to be her mother. You better give that back. Charlie tried to grab the card again, but this time Angelique shoved him so hard he actually bumped into the wall. No, now back off. Give it back, he shouted again. I said back off, Charlie. He tried again, but she shoved him again. That's it, Angelique, Potter, go to your room. Abigail, give me the card. Lily held out her hand. No. Abby ran with the card, trying to reach the stairs. James caught up with her and took the card from her hands, then handed it back to Charlie. Charlie stuck out his tongue, and both girls knew they'd never see that card again. Both of you go upstairs, you're grounded for the rest of the week and you can forget about going shopping with us tomorrow. James pointed upstairs. Like we were gonna go with you anyway. They would have forgotten them again. James looked at Angelique sternly. Upstairs now. Abby started crying, but Angelique led her upstairs anyway. They would take baths, and then go to their rooms, not getting a good night or anything from their parents. Angie would tell Remus about this later, but for now they just had to keep quiet. Abby, you go ahead and take your bath, I'll go after you. Abby nodded and grabbed her pajamas from her room. Angelique waited and looked through her cards, hidden in a spot under her bed where Charlie would never look, and found another rare card that Abby would like better than Merlin, Salazar Slytherin. It wasn't very rare itself, but this card had the colored effects that made it shine brightly in the sunlight. You can go in now, Angie. Abby came into her room looking shower fresh. Okay, here. Angie handed her the card, and Abby's eyes widened. But this is your favorite one. She tried to hand it back. No, Abby, you keep it, since you're not going to get Merlin back. You can have Slytherin. Just make sure you take good care of it, okay? It's a very special card to me. Abby smiled and hugged her. I will, thank you. You're welcome, I'll be back in a little while. Angelique grabbed her own pajamas and went to shower. The water heated up immediately, and she washed her long wavy dark red hair which grew down to her waist. She had her mother's beauty, but her father's dark eyes, which she hated about herself. Abby on the other hand had dark brown hair but wavy, and Lily's eyes, whereas Charlie looked completely like James. Angelique always wanted to make herself look less like her parents, maybe darken herself up a bit. If she got into that school she could change her look, maybe give herself a haircut, and oh, she couldn't wait to start wearing makeup. The only mark Angelique loved about herself was the lightning bolt-shaped scar on her forehead. It told her that despite what her family knew and thought, she was the one who defeated that wizard years ago. This isn't a family, it's just 3 people so stuck up they'd drown if it rained. Soon enough Angelique was finished, she dried her hair, and went back to her room, seeing Abby still there on the bed. Should we go to bed now? Angelique looked at the clock. It was nearly 9. 9 was their bedtime, but of course Charlie got to stay up late whenever he wanted. I guess so. We can't go downstairs. Can I stay with you tonight? Angelique had only a single bed, but she made room for Abby whenever she slept in the room, and that was often. Sure you can. Angelique pulled the covers up and covered Abby and herself. They slept together often, though they were only 3 years apart. You'd think they were twins. Tomorrow was another day though, and Angelique just hoped that school responded soon.